From translation, NKJV, New King James Version. This 258th day of the year. Today we are reading passages Daniel 1 through Daniel chapter 1, verses 1 to 21. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Jehoiakim of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, and he took some of the articles of the house of God, which he carried into the temple of his God in Shinar, and brought the articles into the treasury of his God. Then the king instructed Ashpenaz, his chief eunuchs, to bring some of the children of Israel, some of the royal family, and some of the nobility, of whom were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, young men in whom there was no blemish, but good-looking, gifted in all wisdom, knowledgeable, quick to understand, and who had the ability to serve in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the language and literature of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed for them a daily ration of the king's meat, and of the wine which he drank. And they were to be trained for 3 years, at the end of which they would enter the king's service. Now among those were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, of the children of Judah. To them the chief of the eunuchs gave names. He gave Daniel the name Belteshazzar, to Hananiah Shadrach, to Mishael Meshach, to Azariah Abednego. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief of the eunuchs that he might not have to defile himself. Now God had brought Daniel into the favor and goodwill of the chief of the eunuchs. And the chief of the eunuchs said to Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who has appointed your food and drink. For why should he see your faces looking worse than the young men who are your age? Then you would endanger my head before the king. So Daniel said to the steward, whom the chief of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days, and let them give us vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance be examined before you, and the appearance of the young men who eat the king's meat. And as it seems good to you, so deal with your servants. So he consented to them in this matter, and tested them for 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their features appeared better and fatter in flesh than all the young men who had eaten the king's meat. Thus the steward took away their provisions and the wine that they were to drink, and gave them vegetables. As for these 4 young men, God gave them knowledge and skill in all literature and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the days, when the king had said that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. Then the king interviewed them, and among them all none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they stood before the king. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king examined them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers who were in his realm. So Daniel was there until the 1st year of King Cyrus. Daniel chapter 2, verses 1 to 49. Now in the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. Nebuchadnezzar had dreams, and his spirit was so troubled that his sleep left him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians, the astrologers, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans to tell the king his dreams. So they came in and stood before the king. And the king said to them, I have had a dream, and my spirit is anxious to know the dream. Then the Chaldeans spoke to the king in Aramaic, O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will give the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, The thing from me is firm. If you do not make known to me the dream and its interpretation, you shall be cut to pieces, and your houses shall be laid waste. But if you tell the dream and its interpretation, you shall receive from me gifts, rewards, and great honor. Therefore tell me the dream and its interpretation. The Chaldeans answered the king, There is not a man on earth who can tell the king's dream, and no king, lord, or ruler has ever asked such a thing of any magician, astrologer, or Chaldean. The king is stern, and the demand is urgent, and they have not prostrated themselves before me for the dream, with its interpretation. So the king commanded that they be executed. But Daniel sought and requested that time might be given him to tell the king the interpretation. The Chaldeans answered before the king, "There is no man on earth who can accomplish the king's request. No king, great or small, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. It is a difficult thing that the king requests, and there is no other who can tell it to the king except the gods, and they do not dwell with flesh." For this reason, the king was angry and very furious, and he gave the command to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree went out, and they began killing the wise men, and they sought Daniel and his friends to kill them. Then Daniel answered with prudence and discretion to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, "Why is the decree from the king so urgent?" Then Arioch explained the matter to Daniel. So Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time, that he might tell the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the decision known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they might seek mercies from the God of heaven concerning this secret, so that Daniel and his friends might not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a vision of the night, and Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, "But as for me, this secret has not been revealed to me, because I am wiser than any living being. But for your sake, that the interpretation may be made known to you, that you may know the thoughts of your heart. You, O king, were watching, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before you, and its appearance was frightening. The head of this image was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You watched while a stone was cut out without hands, which struck the image on its feet of iron and clay, and broke them to pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all crushed together, and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors. The wind carried them away, so that no trace of them was found. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream. Now we will tell the interpretation of it before the king. You, O king, are a king of kings, for God has given you dominion, power, strength, and glory, and into your hand he has given dominion over all the people, nations, and languages, that they may dwell throughout the earth. He has given your dominion over everything. But after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to yours, then another, a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything. And like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. Whereas you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. Yet the strength of the iron shall be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile. In that you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to another people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Inasmuch as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God has made known to the king what will take place after this. The dream is certain, and its interpretation is sure. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face, worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an offering and sweet incense to him. The king spoke to Daniel. "Truly, your God is the God of gods, the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, since you could reveal this secret." Then the king promoted Daniel to a high position and gave him many gifts. And he made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon and chief administrator over all the wise men of Babylon. Daniel petitioned the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king. Daniel chapter 3, verses 1 to 30. Nebuchadnezzar the king made a gold image 30 cubits high and 6 cubits wide, and he set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to gather together the satraps, the administrators, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image he had set up. So the satraps, administrators, governors, counselors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces gathered together for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald cried out, "To you it is commanded, O peoples, nations, and language, and whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast immediately into the midst of a burning fiery furnace." So at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the horn, flute, harp, and lyre, in symphony with all kinds of music, all the people, nations, and languages fell down and worshipped the golden image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Therefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came forward and accused the Jews. They spoke and said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, and psaltery in symphony with all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not paid homage to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image which you have set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and fury, spoke and ordered to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if you are ready, when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, and psaltery in symphony with all kinds of music, and you fall down and worship the image which I have made, good. But if you do not worship, you shall be cast immediately into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you from my hands?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor worship the golden image which you have set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar was furious, and his expression changed toward Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He spoke and said to them, "Is it true that you are not willing to serve my gods or to worship the golden image which I have set up?" And he commanded the most mighty men in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their trousers, and their turbans, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Because the king's order was urgent and the furnace was exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell bound into the burning fiery furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and he rose in haste and spoke, saying to his counselors, "Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire?" They answered and said to the king, "True, O king." "Look," he answered, "I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God." Then Nebuchadnezzar went near the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spoke, saying, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and come here." Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out from the midst of the fire. And the satraps, administrators, governors, and the king's counselors gathered together. And they saw these men on whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was a hair of their head singed, nor were their garments affected, and the smell of fire was not on them. Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angels and delivered his servants who trusted in him. And they have frustrated the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they should not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Therefore I make a decree that anyone who plots against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cast into the midst of a burning, fiery furnace." Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon.